China appears to be literally dog walking the United States in trade negotiations. At this point, everybody but the White House seems to know they're just being trolled by the Chinese. Just how embarrassing is it? Wait do you see. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. By the way, of course, give us a follow on Spotify. And of course, if you want to support the channel, criticizing the administration, not exactly a great financial decision in this day and age, but I have your guys' support over on Combat Vet News. Become a member, help me out, get access to uncensored combat footage. You can't beat it. Okay. Now, the news headline, Trump says, guys, U.S. China and trade deal, guys, we're right there. We're right at the finish line. We got it. We got it. Trade deal is on, baby. Right? This is October 25th, by the way. And they say, listen, yeah, Trump and Xi Jinping, we're going to have a meet. We're going to have a handshake. It's going to be great. We've reached a preliminary consensus and a very successful framework. Okay? Right? Bessent told Face the Nation that higher tariffs on China was effectively on the table, according to several American news shows. He said discussion with China yielded initial agreements stopping the precursor chemicals from fentanyls coming in the United States, which, by the way, guys, is the actual drug trafficking problem in the U.S., right? Precursor chemicals in fentanyl sold to Mexican drug cartels. They are combined into fentanyl and sent over the border. China knows exactly what's going on. They could stop this at any time. They absolutely have strict import controls, and their authoritarian government can stop the export of anything they want. And it's transparently obvious, just like China pretends not to know what Russia is doing with the hundreds of thousands of miles of fiber optic cable they're purchasing. Likewise, the China pretends not to know why Mexico orders enough fentanyl precursor chemicals to kill a small country. It's just continually a joke, right? And Obama believed he had negotiated with China to end the provision of fentanyl to Mexico, but instead, literally, the Chinese go, well, technically, we told him we weren't going to ship fentanyl. They just sent him fentanyl part A, fentanyl part B, and then with the Mexicans combine it, that's on them, right? This is because, of course, China's plan is to defeat the United States over a 100-year timeline, and to do so, they need to literally create a massive public health crisis, and they do so with fentanyl. And of course, Mexican cartels happy to make some money. Not that the U.S. is, so when the U.S., of course, becomes fixated on Venezuela, China just laughs hysterically. Now, so Bessent naively thinks this time China's totally going to stop for realsies, and Beijing will make substantial purchases of soybeans and other agricultural products while reducing export controls over rare earths. Again, when asking Trump's trade representative, that if it's even the U.S. trade representative said, well, it's going to depend on the two presidents, which is kind of insane, right? But here's the thing. Here's what I think is most interesting, right? Now, as part of this deal, Scott Bessent says also, by the way, the TikTok deal is going to be finalized. Now, you may see where this is going. You might say to yourself, Paul, I thought you made this video earlier. I thought the TikTok deal was done deal. I thought it was finished. And you'd be correct. In fact, you might recall that the U.S. claimed to have locked in a new China trade deal on May 12th. Wait, what happened? There's a historic trade win. A trend, right? Trump reached an agreement with China to reduce China's tariffs and eliminate retaliation. Retain a baseline tariff on China. Huh. What? Wait, what do you mean? This was a framework. Well, wait, so we achieved a framework on May 12th, and now we've just totally achieved another framework October 28th, but pending approval, of course. But wait, there's more. On June 11th, the White House announced that the trade deal with China is totally done. This time it's definitely done. Right? So you can see how the trade deals have been done 3 or 4 times, right? Remember, September 16th, we locked in. We were done. The U.S.-China TikTok agreement. Done. Finished. Do you see the trend here? The trend is that the Chinese continually tell the U.S. they agree to some sort of vague framework. And the Chinese go, guys, great. I'm just going to take this to the back for approval. I'm just going to take it to Beijing. They're going to rubber stamp it. We're good to go, guys. And Trump goes, guys, we did it. We got him again. Trade negotiations done. And then the Chinese come back and they go, well, we just got to hammer out a few more details, right? And you may say, damn, dude, that's exactly what Vladimir Putin does. He calls Trump. He says, listen, we're really close to being done this war in Ukraine. We just need to wrap up a little things. We got to sort out a couple of minor issues. And then he goes and, bombs Kiev and continues to mobilize and makes no changes, no concessions, none whatsoever. And then the administration naively goes, well, Vladimir Putin told us he was really close. We just had to get a couple of things, right? It's unbelievably just the naivete of constantly being dog walked like this by, it's not even sophisticated. It'd be one thing if the Chinese were really doing it. All that's happening right now is that China is putting on a show for the international stage, right? China doesn't have an inflation problem. China has a deflation problem. And China doesn't import that much stuff from the US. The thing that the US has that's the most valuable that China needs is intellectual property. And the Chinese just steal that wholesale, right? Which, again, China has no intention of stopping, right? Chinese cyber government hackers continue to target US firms on a massive scale. And the reality is that China doesn't give a shit about these tariffs, right? Again, China's happy to sell domestically. They're happy to sell to international markets. And I think the big takeaway that China really wants to do, that's the most important thing for someone like Xi Jinping, is to demonstrate to the whole world that the US is a barking dog. He thinks it's funny. I think it's funny, really, to watch somebody who can't pass a dementia screener dance and dance, jump up and down. The trade deal's done. The trade deal's done. Oh no, yeah, you almost got it, right? I again, I do this with my in-laws' dog, where I'm like, hey, you want a treat? Whoa, no, quick, turn around, jump up and down. The difference is, I make it do a couple of tricks for my amusement, and then I give it the treat. But if you're Xi Jinping, you're not going to give him the treat. You're going to see how many tricks you can get out of him. And right now, they've been rolling over. They've been playing dead. They've been jumping up and down. Bark, bark. Tariffs. Look at him bark. Right? And the problem is not, again, it'd be funny if it was just China and the United States, but the message is a communication to all other countries to say, listen, who is in charge here? Who do you want on your side? Listen, who do you want as your friend? Do you want a dog or do you want the owner? Do you want the person in control? Who's more powerful, the dog or the owner? It's not a trick question. The owner. So if you're going to latch your country's financial fortunes to someone else, to a large superpower, are you going to latch your country to the barking dog? To the yippy little roll over, play dead? Or are you going to do it to China, who goes, listen, we have a 100-year plan. When you make a deal with China, you know that deal is going to be as good as gold. We'll honor it for a century if we have to, because we're the Chinese Communist Party. We're not going anywhere. And it's easier and for a lot of countries, they go, listen, I'd rather sign an exploitive deal where I know the terms than make a deal with the United States, where today we have a free trade deal. Remember, Canada believed they signed a free trade deal with Trump in 2016. And then Trump came back in office and said, no, actually, we have a new deal. And remember, Trump said, oh, we have a deal with Canada and the UK. Well, then he's like, well, no, actually, surprise, we don't. I'm changing the terms of the deal. No country appears to have signed an actual meaningful trade deal with the United States. It's all just frameworks. And remember, because every time Trump announces, he goes, well, I'm increasing auto tariffs, or I'm decreasing auto tariffs, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. That's a renegotiation of the deal he made with all these other countries. They thought no more tariffs. So every time he says that, the country's got to go back. They got to go, well, hey, Don, we spent weeks negotiating a trade deal with you. Now you're telling us you're tariffing auto parts? That wasn't part of the deal. You just changed it. You just threw it in the shredder. Right? And again, it's probably because he can't pass a cognitive screen. But it's very troubling stuff. It's all just unbelievably embarrassing for the United States. It'd be embarrassing if it wasn't a competition for global influence. Because remember, China isn't like, there's a reason why no one ever flees the United States to live in China. It's less than 1,000 people a year. I guarantee it. And that's because China, for the individual, doesn't offer the right to decide who leads the country. Xi Jinping leads the country, and he will until he dies. It's not going to offer a like individual liberty, freedom of expression, freedom of religion. You don't have any of those things. The right to petition the government. If the Chinese government says you're going to jail, you're going to jail. There's no proving your case in court, and there's definitely no suing the government for violating your civil rights. Those things don't exist. And if China leads the world, then you're going to see the proliferation of Chinese-style relationships, Chinese-style governments in other countries. And the fear is that, again, every time the U.S. gets dog-walked by an authoritarian like this, it sends a message to the globe that says, listen, democracy is a failure. Democracy is a joke. If you align yourself with the United States, if you have a representative government, you too are going to get dog-walked and humiliated. You'll be the laughingstock of the world. And so, again, like, Trump's supposed to be a strong man. That's the point of a strong man. And the fact that he's demonstrating unbelievable amounts of weakness is, well, exactly who he always said he is. A showman, no substance. Anyway, thanks to Alfred Chesky, Ellen Knutson, Christine Schumann, Dan M., Deborah Oppenheimer, and all of our Lieutenant Tier members. Couldn't do it without you guys. Let's see you in the next one. Cheers.